Hatches, everybody.
I do have some really good tablets.
Have you got any leave booked?
All right. It does affect 1 in 5 people. Nick Dixon is in Crawley for us this morning with Stephanie Damsky and her 2 children, Henry, and James. They both suffer from hay fever, and it's no laughing matter, is it, Nick?
No, absolutely not, Susanna. It's a really difficult time for the family, actually. They do their best to cope with it as much as they can with medicines and creams, of course, and the inhalers. And on a day like today, when the pollen count may well be quite high, the kids have hats on so the pollen stays out of their eyes. But it is really tricky, isn't it, Stephanie? What kind of symptoms do Henry in particular show?
Henry, he has obviously the sneezing, as you can hear there, runny nose, he gets sore eyes and sore skin. The pollen itself, when it's on his skin, really affects his skin and makes it very red.
How do you deal with that on the severity of it on a daily basis?
We have lots of lotions and potions. We use antihistamine. He has special creams that he has prescribed. And we just make sure we have everything available to us when we go out, so that we are prepared.
I know you're affected, and James as well is affected, not perhaps quite as severely as Henry. But the family can't even have a washing line in the garden. Everything has to go into the tumble dryer for fear of any pollen getting onto the clothes. So it is something you have to manage every single day, isn't it?
We do manage it every day, we do. It's very important that it's not in his bedding, because don't want him to sleep in it. And obviously at the end of the day we want all the pollen off everything that he's been wearing. So that's how we manage it.
And how do the kids cope? Do they get quite down about it as well?
I think they're very upbeat, as children are, but of course if you have any allergies, you'll know that nighttime's pretty tough, and that's the worst time for pollen, and it does affect their sleep. And obviously when you're affected by lack of sleep, you might get a little bit grumpy.
Indeed. Well, I know you've tried everything, but Stephanie's always open to any new suggestions, any advice that's available to her.
Well, let's see if we can help Nick. It can be so prohibitive for kids, particularly being able to get outside and mess around. Kate is on the roof to get us some top tips. We were hoping it to be bright and sunny today. It's a bit cooler than that in London, isn't it, Kate?
It's very fresh. Let's go for glass half full. It's very fresh this morning, which might be good, actually. We've got Dr. Mona Mansouri here with me. You're a health specialist and a GP. Actually, when there is a bit more breeze, it is better for those who are suffering, isn't it?
It can be, because it sort of gets rid of the things like the pollen in the air and also the pollutants around as well. So hopefully it just helps to move that along a little bit for some.
Right, we saw Henry and James there. Their mum, Stephanie, has tried everything. But what is the recommended way to treat hay fever?
So the mainstay is treatments that you can get from any pharmacy. So things like antihistamine tablets, eye drops, steroid sprays, so those sort of things are very effective.
Here, haven't we?
And you can use them in combination as well, depending on what sort of symptoms you have. So if you have lots of eye symptoms, you can use eye drops. You've got lots of sort of runny nose, sneezing, that sort of thing. The nasal spray can be particularly effective as well.
Lots of people getting in touch because there are also lots of alternative remedies, aren't there, which people find very useful. Kenny Marie Smith says petroleum jelly works every time. Pop some on your nose and around your nostrils. Works for her.
Absolutely. This is something that I recommend to all my patients as well. It's very straightforward, very simple. Everyone's got a bit of petroleum jelly hanging around somewhere, and it's very effective at catching the sort of particles before they get in and start to irritate the eyes and nose.
This is an interesting one. Kim Roden says a light therapy unit which you can buy from a pharmacy has completely cured her partner and her. Can't recommend it enough. How would that work?
To be quite honest, I'm not sure. I've not really heard of any specific evidence for light therapy, but that'll be a new one for me too.
Okay, all right. Well, you might have hit on something there, Kim. You have to let us know more. Zoe says, forget over-the-counter chemicals. Manuka honey is the way forward. What's the thinking there?
I think Manuka or local honey is recommended. Most of the evidence, again, is a bit anecdotal, but I've had lots of patients also tell me that honey helps for them. And the idea is that it contains pollen particles, especially if they're local pollen particles from trees and grasses around you. It sort of makes you less sensitive to them, so it's kind of an immunotherapy through a natural method. So why not? It's worth a go.
And things like the probiotic yogurts and pineapple, what's that about?
So probiotics are kind of good bacteria, healthy bacteria that help us to repopulate our bowels with good stuff, and it's supposed to reduce inflammation and make us less sensitive to allergens, particles in the environment. The theory with pineapples is that they have bioflavonoids, which are an antioxidant, which reduce inflammation as well. And again, there's a bit of evidence to show that it may help in some individuals.
Okay, all right. Well, if it works for you, I guess it's a good thing, isn't it?
Easy
Try
stuff to
anything.
Try.
Lovely, thanks very much indeed, Kate. I was very interested in that idea. It hadn't occurred to me. If you put your laundry outside to dry, of course, it can pick up the pollen.
Yeah, you can drop on it.
So
and
maybe
then you put the
that's-
clothes on, and then it's going to be itchy.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's something worth avoiding. Competition time now. Andy Peters has all the